For instance, there are many people that don't understand why this idea of congregational gathering was instituted. To some, it's just a religious ritual. To some, it's just one of the duties they need to fulfill as part and parcel of their Christian obligation. But it's deeper than that. It's deeper than that. The Bible said in the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 3 and in verse 18, it says, and we all with unveiled faces, with open faces, beholding as in a glass the image of the Lord, we are what? We are changed into the same image by the Spirit. We are changed, we are metamorphosed, we are transformed. There is a law in the spirit that is also true in the natural, that whatever you consistently behold, you are likely to become. The more you look, the more you become. If you think it's a lie, observe married people that have been married maybe from 10 years upward, that have stayed together. I'm not talking about people that are consistently fighting. I'm talking about people that have genuine marital experience, marital bliss. If you observe them, you will discover that the wife look like the husband look like the wife. The reason is because by the protocol of intimacy, they have become one, spiritually and physically. The man can look at his wife and the wife knows exactly what he's saying without him uttering a word. The wife can look at him without saying anything and the husband knows what he's saying. So it's a law that whatever you consistently behold, you become. This is why this is the idea behind congregational fellowship like this. That by this protocol, we will come into the reality of oneness, because that is where the ultimate power of the ecclesia lies. Pastor Feliz Manos Mindrihask Mananasa Amashosis Halia. So the idea behind fellowship is to create an economy or an avenue through which man or the church or the ecclesia or people we enter or attain oneness, where we become united as one. That is when we will begin to see the true meaning of the ecclesia and what it really means in the eyes of God the Father. I want to show you 3 things why oneness is very important. Number 1, it is the secret to the blessing. It is the secret to the blessing. In the book of Psalm 133, from verse 1 to 3, we saw that protocol carefully outlined. The Bible said, behold, how good and pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in what? In unity. He said it is like the ointment, the precious ointment that is upon the head, that ran down upon the beards, even Aaron's beard, that went down to his skirt, the skirt of his garment. Verse 3, he said, as the dew of Hermon, and as the dew that descended upon the mountains of Zion, for there the Lord what? Commanded the blessing. You see, God is an immortal being, is an inexhaustible force, is an ever-evolving reality that can cannot be exhaustively studied nor exhaustively comprehended. But because he's a being of diverse dimensions and capacity, there are protocols that governs the unveiling of himself. There are certain realities that are available to God that men can never experience unless there is a structure. There must be a foundation upon which that dimension will rest. There is something called the blessing. In all its entirety, the blessing is a reality of God that the church can never enter into until we attain unity of faith, unity of spirit, unity of purpose. It said, behold how good and pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together. For that dimension of God to rest upon the church, there must be a structure, there must be a foundation that will be solidly strong enough to host that dimension. And until that foundation is laid, we can't host it. We won't see it. God will not expose himself like that. That foundation is what is called oneness. When we become one, then when we enter a reality in God never seen, we will enter the power allotted to our dispensation to experience. This is the major problem, and that is why the devil fights so much, because he understands the mystery of oneness. He said, there the Lord commanded the blessing. It is the place of absolute blessing. It's not a place for crumbs. It's not a place for mercy drop. It's a height that when fully attained, you will see the almightiness of God in all his entirety. This is why oneness must be an object or a goal that we press after daily as a people, because we know that when we ultimately apprehend, we will bring a dimension of God never seen before. And the devil knows, so he will stop at nothing until he frustrates the agenda of the people of God that attempt to achieve oneness. Why oneness? It is the secret to invincibility, the secret to incorruptibility, the secret to divine preservation. If you read the book of Numbers, from number 22, from verse 11, you hear of the story of a man called Balak. He is the king of the Moab. He was frightened by the emergence of the people of Israel. He has heard of their fame and how they swept through other nations unstoppable. And he knew they were approaching his quarters. So he began to contemplate what to do. And he heard of a prophet called Balaam. A man that sees with his eyes open. If you read the credential of Balaam, you will love him. You will love him. He invoked him that he will come and curse the people of God, so that they will not be able to harm him or his people. And when Balaam showed up, there was something that the Israelite had that made them uncurseable, that made them invincible, that made them unapproachable by any realm or power. It was unity. Unity. In the book of Numbers 24, verse 2 and 5. Let me show you. It says, and Balaam lifted up his eyes, and he saw Israel abiding in his tents according to their tribe, and the Spirit of God rested upon him, came upon him. In verse 5 he said, how goodly are thy tent, O Jacob, and thy tabernacle, O Israel. He said they were abiding according to their tribe. That arrangement was not an accident. It was a divine intelligence that is meant for their protection and preservation. There was no breaking of rank among them. They were in one accord. So when the prophet saw from a higher plane, he saw them in one accord. There was no discord in their midst. So even when he wants to release a curse, a blessing will proceed from his mouth. 3 times, 7 altars were erected. 7 bulls and 7 rams were slaughtered upon the altar, just to summon powers to be able to curse the people of Israel. But the more they try, blessings proceed forth, because they were in array, in accordance with the will of God. They were in unity, they were in oneness. Zebulun remained in his lane, so was Issachar, so was Reuben, so was Judah, and there was no breaking of rank. When the prophet tried, every time he opened his mouth, his blessings that came out, he couldn't. Balak was frustrated. I brought you to curse these people. Hitherto you have ended up blessing them. And Balaam did something. If you read Revelation chapter 2 and verse 14, you hear the lamentation of Jesus. He said, but I have a few things against thee, because thou hast dear them that hold the doctrine of Balaam, who taught Balak to cast a stumbling block before the people of Israel, before the children of Israel, and to eat things sacrificed unto idol, and to commit fornication. If you go to chapter 31 of Numbers, especially verse 16, you will see where Moses, by the inspiration of God, found out what Balaam did that opened them up, that made their camp pregnable to the enemy. He told them, these people are uncurseable. There is no enchantment against Israel, nor divination against Jacob, because the shout of the king is in their midst. You can't harm them. The only way you can harm them is what? To make them do things against their God. You will not need to fight them. Their God himself will fight them. Balak arranged young damsels, and they entered the camp of Israel. And God released a plague that wiped over 24,000 people, until Phinehas killed somebody and the plague stayed. The power of oneness. It ensures preservation. It ensures incorruptibility. It ensures invincibility. Oneness.